Hey y'all, it's me, Melanie Beran with JL Wyatt Properties, myhomeinhouston.com, and we are talking about seller leasebacks. Now, if you're considering buying, selling, moving in the Southeast Houston area, Baytown, Deer Park, swinging around through Friendswood and Pearland, I would love to be your resource. And make sure that you go ahead and like this video and subscribe so that you get all the information that you need on your home buying or home selling journey. Moving right along into a seller leaseback. This is something that we're seeing a lot of in this market, but maybe you've heard the term and you're not quite sure what it is. What does it mean? What goes into it? How do you protect yourself as a buyer? We're going to talk about all of these things. First, let's talk about what is it? A seller leaseback is exactly what it sounds like. It is leasing the home that you have purchased back to the seller. In a strong buyer's market, this is not something that's very common. In a seller's market, like we're seeing right now, this is becoming more and more common. So it really is just a space that you work out. Your real estate agent helps you negotiate with the listing agent for the seller to negotiate that the seller can live in the home for X amount of time after the home transaction purchase is closed and it is a done deal. Why would somebody agree to this? You've bought a house, isn't it yours? Well, right now in a really strong seller's market, sellers are worried about selling their home and then not being sure which home they're buying next. Sellers have to live somewhere, right? This allows for the seller to go ahead and sell their home even if they don't have the next place lined up. Sellers just need a place to live, and this is one way in a strong seller's market where the sellers are really asking for everything that they can. This is a way for you to provide something that's not necessarily even of monetary value, that's not going to raise your loan limit or anything like that. This is a way for you to provide value that's not financial, but if the seller needs a lease back, this makes you have a really, really strong offer. So how long is a seller lease back? Well, that's really up to the terms of your deal. Typically, a seller leaseback is going to be 30 to 60 days, but can go all the way up to a 90-day leaseback without having to do a whole residential lease contract. If your seller does need to live in the home farther than that, then you are going to need to use some kind of traditional landlord-tenant lease. But if it's shorter than that, like I said, typical is a lot of times 30 to 60 days, then you can just add that in as part of your sales contract. So 30 to 60 days is pretty typical. And then the next question besides how long is how much? How much rent do you charge for that? How much deposit do you charge for that? What does all of that look like? Well, it's important to remember that in real estate, everything is negotiable. A lot of times right now, sellers are looking for leasebacks and even a free leaseback. So that means instead of paying you, $30 or $40 a day to live in the home for a month, right? $900, $1,000 of rent. A lot of times what sellers are looking for is to not pay at all. And a lot of sellers, because of how few homes are on the market, are able to negotiate that. Right now in this market, a lot of times I'm recommending to buyers that if they're going to do a leaseback, they just do a free leaseback. Again, that's one way to add to the value that the seller gets without having to add your own finances, and it also saves the seller some money, so they're getting to keep more of what they sell. So it's kind of a win-win. I would always recommend, though, getting a deposit. So that way, just like a regular rental or an apartment, things like that, you do have some security in the fact that they are going to leave the house in the shape that you bought it, right? In my opinion, it's just a good protection move for you as a buyer if you're offering a leaseback. So that's what a leaseback is. That's how long a leaseback goes. That's how much do you charge for a leaseback. Really, the bottom line is everything in real estate is negotiable, and that's one of the reasons that you probably want to work with an agent. I would love to be that agent, but you're going to want to work with an agent that's going to help you navigate all of these things because that's what we do on a daily basis. So let's look at the pros and cons of leaseback. The good things about a leaseback is that one, if the seller wants or needs a leaseback, it makes your offer that much stronger. If you offer the same closing date and the same amount of money and the same option money and the same earnest money as everyone else who's offering on this home, and yours has a leaseback, that could make your offer the one that gets chosen. Even if you maybe have a little bit lower offer, but the seller really needs a lease back and you're willing to offer a 1-month free lease back so that the seller has more time to get their things in order, that's going to make your offer stand out that much more because you are meeting the seller's needs. Not just meeting the sales price or agreeing to a sales price, but you're meeting the needs, you're making the seller's life that much easier. Another pro is this could work out well if you're already in a rental. Let's say that you have an apartment that you're renting and the lease isn't up for 4 months and the seller needs a couple of month lease back. This could actually help you finish out your lease instead of breaking your lease in the middle of it and paying those extra months. So that's something to consider as well. What are some negatives of a seller lease back? Well, when you buy a house, you usually want to move in right away. And the seller leaseback does obviously hamper that. You're not going to be able to move in until the seller moves out. So those are some things that you're going to want to think about. Everything in real estate is negotiable. I can't sit here and tell you that you absolutely have to offer a leaseback or that you absolutely shouldn't, because every deal is different. And that's why working with an agent, understanding what your situation is, and also working with an agent who communicates with the listing agent to know what the seller's priorities are, is both of those are really, really important. If we offer a seller leaseback and the seller doesn't want one, then there was no point in it. They may be fine. But if the seller is really looking for a leaseback and you're not willing to offer that, then we would need to come up with other strategies to make your offer attractive to the seller without offering that leaseback. So that's just kind of the situation that we're in right now. If you have questions about a seller leaseback, how that all works, really anything related to home buying, or you're considering selling and you have questions about how to get a seller leaseback, make sure that you leave a comment and I'll come back, I'll answer you as soon as I can, and let's just make sure that we get you, whether you're buying or selling, in the best position for you. I hope something really great happens to you today.